In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. The title of this presentation is Understanding the Periodic Table of the Elements from the Quran, from the last revelation of Allah God to people. Now to start, here we have, as you can see on the screen, this is the periodic table of the elements as we have it today. Now I will show in this presentation how we can understand this table by pondering upon the verses of the Quran, the last revelation of Allah God to people. Now the key to understand the periodic table of the elements and understand the atom and its behavior is found in one verse in the Quran, which is verse number 61 of chapter 10 of the Quran, which reads, "Whatever you may be doing, and whatever portion you may be reciting from the Quran, and whatever deed you may be doing, Allah God is a witness thereof when you are doing it, and nothing is hidden from your Lord, the weight of an atom on the earth or in the heaven, not what is less than that or what is greater than that, but is in a clear record." So here Allah God Almighty is telling us that nothing is hidden from Him, not as much as the weight of an atom. So if we concentrate on this, as you can see on the screen, we learn so many things. Among these aspects, firstly, that Allah God Almighty, when He says that nothing is hidden from Him, not as much as the weight of an atom in the heavens or in the earth, we learn that Allah is telling us that the basic building unit of the heavens and the earth is something He calls the atom. In Arabic, dharra. So we learn that the basic building block of the heavens and the earth is the atom. And similar, like for example, we say that the basic building block of a brick building is a single brick, and the assembly of multiple bricks makes up the building. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we notice something very important, that Allah, God Almighty, links the weight of an atom to His description in the Quran, which means we can deduce from this that the weight of the atom, its weight, it's the main characteristic and it is the most important property of the atom, which means that its weight dictates its behavior, its response, it's everything for the atom, its weight. Because Allah, God Almighty, did not link its shape, its size to its description, only its weight. So to understand the periodic table of the elements, we only need to look at differences between the weights of the various atoms. So Allah God Almighty is giving us a key here to understand the elements, just looking at the weight, and from the weight of the atom we can explain the behavior of matter. I would like to show this by examples. It's easier to understand. Let's start with the optical properties of materials. As you can see, brothers and sisters, we see here, I made a comparison between two atoms, the atoms of silica and iron. And as Allah God Almighty teaches us in the Quran, we only need to look at their weight. So if we look at the silica atom, its atomic weight is about 28. Let's take it as a number, about 28. And with regards to its optical properties, it's relatively light. It has a light weight. And as thus, the weight of the atom dictates the number of electrons in its heavens. So its ability to absorb the incident light, it's small. It cannot absorb all the incident light. As thus, light can penetrate this material made from silica. So we see that, we notice that silica glass, for example, it's transparent. Now, if we compare this to iron atoms, the atomic weight of iron is about 56, let's say. And again, as we learn from the Quran, that the weight dictates all the properties of the atom. Larger weights means more electrons in the heavens, which means that the iron atoms can absorb the light incident on them, and thus it cannot penetrate the material, and thus it's not transparent to light. So we see, brothers and sisters, how by comparing the atomic weight of the atoms we can differentiate their optical properties. And this kind of understanding is far superior to anything we have been taught in chemistry classes and physics classes in school and colleges. This is straightforward. It is a very simple and straightforward understanding from the creator of everything, and not depending on the trial-error approach of humans. Let's take another example of the mechanical properties of matter. Here I chose the aluminium atom, which has the atomic weight of about 27, and with regards to its mechanical properties, a light atom means that the bonding between one atom and the another is not that strong, it's weak, and as thus its mechanical strength and stiffness will be low. Now, in comparison, of course, if we compare aluminium to cobalt, which has the 59 as atomic weight, it has a stiffness of 209 gigapascals. Let's say 209 as a number. If we compare it to aluminium, it has a stiffness of 70 gigapascals. So we see how the weight of the atom differentiates its mechanical properties. A lightweight atom, a material made of lightweight atoms, is weaker than a material made of heavy atoms. Again, this kind of understanding is far superior to what people know nowadays of how to differentiate between different elements. Okay, let's take another example about the thermal properties of matter. Again, looking at the weight of the atom. If we have a lighter atom, this means that the number of electrons in its heavens is less, which means that the ability of the material to conduct heat is low. So let's take comparison between magnesium, which has an atomic weight of about 24.3, and copper, which has an atomic weight of 63.5. Now, because copper has copper atoms, they have a larger weight. This means that they have more electrons. This means that their ability to absorb and conduct heat is larger. So we find that they have a thermal conductivity of 400, while magnesium has a thermal conductivity of 160. Again, seeing how the weight of the atom can explain everything with regards to the properties of matter, as we learn exactly from the Quran. The last example about the electrical properties of matter. Again, the weight of the atom, as I said, dictates the number of electrons in the heaven. The larger the weight, the more electrons, and thus the larger the number of the electrons, the material will be more able to conduct electricity. So if we compare beryllium atoms, which has an atomic weight of 9, and gold atoms, which have an atomic weight of 196 or 197, we see that the ability of gold to conduct electricity is far greater than the ability of beryllium to conduct electricity, again depending only on the weight of the atom. So we find that gold has electrical resistivity of 2.2 multiplied 10 to the minus 8 as a number, while the electrical resistivity of beryllium 4 multiplied 10 to the minus 8 is more resistant for the flow of electrons. So we see, brothers and sisters, from these quick examples, how the key that Allah Almighty teaches us in the Quran, that the weight of the atom is the main kind of property which differentiates an element from another, and it dictates the number of electrons, it dictates the atomic bonds and the bonding between two atoms. So, as I said, this shows the superiority of the Quran, and we see how Allah Almighty makes it easy for us to understand aspects and concepts. And this kind of understanding, as I said, is far superior to what we learn in schools and universities. We learn in minutes what took us in school 12 years and university 4 or 5 years. So, because if we depend on the Quran, then our life will be much easier and much more fruitful than depending on the guesswork of people, which might be wrong, or might be right, or might be wrong. And to know more details about this topic, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zquran@gmail.com. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.